Contracts for the sale of hope, masquerading as trend-setting majors, constitute the greatest and most ruthless asset-draining campaign ever engineered by the education industry. The masses surrender their families' vast fortunes in exchange for an illusion of lifelong security. With every admission season, dazzling headlines promising an absolutely safe future appear in thick clusters across the media. Peace of mind is bought and sold through sponsored articles, transforming a commercial transaction into an intangible right. Messages hailing a profession starving for human resources are utterly worthless in providing objective information. Instead, they serve as invisible psychological funnels, herding prey filled with future anxiety into a pre-programmed financial extraction assembly line. Thousands of years ago in ancient squares, a group of itinerant teachers invented the first intellectual business model in human history. They traveled across city-states, peddling a promise to youths hungry for fame. The promise was simple: pay a tuition fee worth a fortune, and the student would master the art of rhetoric to seize power in a highly competitive society. These ancient teachers turned a blind eye to the pursuit of truth. They sold tools and the sensation of victory. They molded human anxiety and greed into a lucrative commodity. That primitive business model laid the foundation for a grand art of manipulation, where the product on sale is a future painted with words. Today, modern shepherds have upgraded that form into a gargantuan industrial machine. The operational method remains as ruthless as it was in the beginning. Red-stamped certificates have replaced ancient lessons in rhetoric. The promise of political power has been devalued into the promise of a stable salary and a firm foothold in the economy. The prey voluntarily brings a lifetime of accumulated wealth to surrender to their superiors, hoping to purchase a shield of immunity against obsolescence. In return, the system blatantly strips away the most vigorous youthful years of a human life. The prey is confined within a simulation of the real world, diligently practicing mock operations while the external economic currents are constantly restructuring. The facade called education has brilliantly concealed the naked commercial nature of an exchange where knowledge is merely the bait and profit is the ultimate destination. The economy is a constantly fluctuating entity, always operating under the cold laws of supply and demand. A profession loudly acclaimed today will automatically become saturated after just a few training cycles. Those holding the handle of the knife understand this cruel law perfectly, and they hide it beneath layers of beautiful packaging. Their job is to sell as many admission tickets as possible at the present moment. Whether the audience finds a seat or must stand huddled at the edge of the stage is entirely a story for the future. The crowd always craves certainty in a chaotic world, so they cling to analyses praising stability like lifebuoys. A skill trained in mass production inherently annihilates the exclusivity of its possessor. The dealer only needs to successfully trigger the state of panic in families searching for a way to survive. The fear of failure is the best fuel to run this massive money-printing machine. The shell of these temples of knowledge hides a hyper-profitable, closed-loop ecosystem. Once a prey steps into the system, they become an endless source of cash flow to nourish the entire network. The massive annual revenue flowing into the house's pockets comes primarily from the pockets of these prey. This industry enjoys a privilege that every commercial system covets, collecting cash before providing the service. Surrounding the training centers is a network of satellite businesses waiting to drain the vitality of the crowd. The rental real estate market releases cramped rooms at exorbitant prices. Retail, food, and transport services besiege every corner. Credit institutions cast a wide net of loans with massive interest rates so that learners can maintain the illusion of changing their lives. Every individual carrying a dream of safety is squeezed for surplus value, from entrance exams, exclusive materials, and auxiliary certificates to the final fee to be recognized for completing a cycle of consumption. This is an industry of systematically harvesting hope. The trapping process is designed in multiple, tightly woven layers. The first layer is a media smokescreen. The puppeteers release countless labor market analysis reports, providing figures forecasting massive personnel shortages over the next decade. The second layer is validation from social status figures hired to bolster credibility. By honoring rare, exceptional individuals, the system implants a blind belief in fairness into the minds of the masses, creating an illusion that as long as one strives to follow the rules of the game, anyone can reach the top. The third layer is herd pressure. When everyone around is rushing down one path, individual resistance is immediately broken. Humans possess a gregarious instinct, and isolation brings a sense of extreme danger. Paying to enter a crowd provides an illusion of safety. A school of sardines always tends to gather in large numbers to avoid risk, even though in reality, the house's fishing net is designed to catch the entire school at once. Docile conformity to the crowd is the sturdiest shackle-binding perception. The ultimate art of the dealers in this gamble is the perfect and legal transfer of risk. In an ordinary economic transaction, the seller must be responsible for product quality. A defective item gives the buyer the right to demand compensation. In the industry of selling hope, the laws of warranty are completely erased. When a prey walks out of the system and is rejected by the labor market, the fault automatically lies with the customer. The system immediately points the spear at the victim, declaring that they lack soft skills, lack a progressive attitude, lack dynamism, or are incompetent at adapting to reality. The house washes its hands of responsibility, keeps all the collected money, and nonchalantly opens its doors to a new batch of prey. Investment risk is pushed entirely onto the shoulders of the vulnerable. They must personally bear the financial debts, face market surplus, and gnaw on their own personal failure. The promise of safety vanishes into thin air. The promotional texts of the past become completely invisible before the law, stripping away any grounds for a lawsuit. They were merely sophisticated emotional manipulation tactics designed for the moment. The prey decided to open their wallet. Social structure is always determined by a small group of puppeteers through the molding of mass perception. They establish standards of success to direct the flow of human resources according to their manipulative intentions. When the system needs a large amount of cheap labor to serve a new economic sector, they immediately start the media machine. They create an artificial scarcity and paint a brilliant future vision to incite greed. The masses scramble against each other, paying for their own training to become easily replaceable components in a pre-assembled machine. The cruelty of this cycle is exposed continuously. Professions advertised as starving for manpower with unbelievable salaries will quickly receive a massive supply of labor. When thousands of people possess the same type of certificate, the buyer of labor holds absolute power over life and death. They suppress wages to the floor and force the prey to work in the harshest conditions, because outside the door, there is always a long line of others ready to fill the gap. The only winners are the house selling the admission tickets and the bosses buying labor at dirt-cheap prices. The naive crowd spends their own money to lower their own value. The value of a skill is determined by its scarcity. However, the ultimate goal of the degree-selling industry is mass production. This is a deadly paradox that the prey is rarely sober enough to recognize. The house wants to maximize profit, which forces them to expand the scale of training to the ultimate limit. When a specific skill is turned into a mass-produced commodity, scarcity is instantly annihilated. The certificate loses its authority of excellence, downgraded to a basic form of identification just to prove the individual exists within the system. Learners are paying a high price for a product that continuously depreciates from the moment they sign the contract. Turning the learning process into a commercial service has stripped knowledge of its primal value. Knowledge is demoted to a tool for bartering for a place of survival. Those who transmit knowledge become assembly line workers, forced to provide services that satisfy customers instead of asking questions that challenge thought. Every exam or grade does not truly measure capability. They become tools to test the customer's level of submission to the management process. This business model celebrates obedience and uniformity. The system avoids creating exceptional critical thinkers because independent individuals always threaten the stability of the governance network. They focus on molding workers who know how to follow procedures and believe absolutely in stamped evaluation charts. The homogeneity in the thinking of tens of thousands of people graduating from the same mold is the greatest achievement of invisible control. Every individual is born with completely different traits and inclinations. Under the pressure of the fear of unemployment, they all whittle themselves down to fit into a single mold. They reject their natural character to memorize a set of skills promised to be easily exchanged for money. The prey voluntarily turns themselves into a standardized commodity. A flock of identical sheep is always easy to manage, easy to harvest, and easy to replace without causing disruption to the general operating system. The true power of this trap lies in its thorough exploitation of the deepest human psychological weaknesses. The obsession with falling behind and the desire to belong to a safe group are survival instincts rooted in prehistoric times. The shepherd ignores the use of force to drive the herd into the pen. They only need to cast a dim light on the darkness and the cold elimination awaiting those left behind, then slightly open a brilliant artificial door. Transactions based on fear always squeeze out maximum profit. Humans are willing to sell out their future freedom, accepting enslavement to long-term debts, just to buy a few years of feeling falsely at peace. They deceive themselves into thinking they are investing in the future. Only when holding the certificate of completion in their hands does the prey realize with horror that the ticket actually annihilates the opportunity to enter the promised land. It turns into a pass to enter a far more brutal arena where the calculated promises of the past have completely evaporated. This loop operates smoothly from generation to generation. When one generation is drained and tastes the bitter truth, they are immediately pushed to the margins to make room for a new batch of prey filled with naivety and primal fear. The promotional texts are renamed, dressed in more modern terminology, while the essence of exploitation continues to endure. The game is designed so that the crowd forever loses to the house. Each individual ties themselves to the wheel, hurriedly paying money to buy a spot on a waiting list for a job, and lulls themselves into believing they are luckier than the rest. The system of manipulation is so perfect that it causes the victims to torment themselves over their own perceived incompetence instead of recognizing the organized web of deceit within the hope-selling machine. Every spark of resistance is smothered in its cradle by the very shame the system sows into the minds of the losers, when realizing that the ticket onto the ship of safety is actually just a receipt for the payment of a sinking port. Will the crowd stop their hurried queuing to buy more of the next scraps of paper?